Hi, John Marshall, the DrillMaster. This video is brought to you by the Honor Guard Manual. And this is LAPD Mission Cadets Drill Performance. So let's go and enlarge this. There we are. All right, so I must admit that I don't know exactly the context of what this is supposed to be, whether it's supposed to be purely an exhibition performance or if there's a mixture of a regulation performance and then an exhibition performance. So I will just critique as I see. And I fixed the audio. I apologize. The last two videos that I made, it was drowning out my voice, so. And of course we have video lag, of course. So I'll entertain you while the video loads. All right, here we go. Why are you calling Cadence? Everybody's in step. Actually, even the platoon is in phase. Gonna play these games, are we? All right, so it's not necessary to call Cadence. It's not that it's inappropriate to call Cadence, but Guidon Bear, you want to get your heels together? And that was not so from what I understand, it's the last LAPD cadet performance had a mixture of Army and Marine Corps techniques. So pick one. I see the guidon. The guidon flag is the Marine Corps style. It's a rectangle. It's not the swallowtail, which would be Army or Air Force. So and it looks like I can see elbows here are pretty much along the torso. You know, the Marine Corps style is to have the upper arm extend out from the shoulder, and then that's the salute. The elbow is in line with the rest of the torso. Army and Air Force, then what we do is we put the elbow slightly in front of the torso, and so having said that, those two things indicate to me that you should be using the Marine Corps order. So we're going to go back. I'm going to watch you march in. And you're calling Cadence in the Marine Corps style, which is most likely comes from slamming the guidon isn't necessary, especially slamming it with the left hand. And that's not a Marine Corps salute technique for the guidon. That's Army-ish, Air Force-ish. That wasn't actually that salute with the guidon. It didn't meet any any service standard. So neither does slamming the guidon. That never meets a standard. So you probably got your command. Probably got your commands technique. Did you say ready halt? Okay. Not a big fan of ready, unless it's in a boy, you're lifting that guidon. Anyway, you probably got the commands from that's not a command. It's just a word, attention. It's platoon attention, team attention. You're making your poor guidon go back and forth and back and forth. Why? So let me finally get my words out. You probably got your commands. When you're standing at attention, your hands are practically on your butt, thumb along the seam of the trouser leg. Why are you checking alignment? Is it a requirement? This is if this is an exhibition performance, then you're losing your audience here. And you should have stopped centered. Don't sidestep. Your instructor. I finally got it out. Your instructor, thank you, Scout. Your instructor is probably the one who taught you to call commands like that. It's probably a former Marine, which is fine. Okay. All right. Guidon, stop going back and forth. You're going to get sick with the constant movement back and forth and back and forth. The Marine Corps order specifically states that if you're just going to execute facing movements and just do that stationary drill again and again and again and again, the guidon doesn't move back and forth, because the guidon's not supposed to move back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The guidon moves to in front of the 4th squad leader when you're about to march. That's it. All the other times, the guidon stays put. You're losing your audience here. Big time. That's not a command. And that's supposed to be a face-in march, guidon, after you execute that right faced. Commander, you're supposed to stay 3 steps away. You're speeding up, team. Are you taking up time with the constant command calling? Again, speeding up. Great movement, guidon, to get back into alignment. 4th squad leader, you need to tell guidon where she's supposed to go, because guidon doesn't know. Calling cadence is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. If you don't need to do it, then you don't need to do it. And this is not one of those times where you need to. So, all right. Constant cadence calling is actually an annoyance. It's not necessary. It's not necessary at all. The whole platoon is staying in step just fine. It almost sounds like you're calling cadence just to hear your voice. And I don't mean that as an insult, but it's not necessary. Honestly, the reason why I stopped the video is that you're marching back and forth up and down the center of the basketball court. And then you're calling columns into the audience. You're not using your area effectively. You have, let me get my pointer going here. You have all this space back here that you aren't using at all. You keep marching up and down here, and then you've columned twice into the audience. Once before, you were a little bit farther back. You were able to call the column and then rear march. But if you started marching here, then why not march back here and call a column, then another column? You could make it a complete box there if you were to use your space effectively. So this is quite ineffective to have your team. I'm glad the team stopped a couple of steps ahead of the audience. That shows some good training there to where you can actually take steps to turn around. But again, the mark time quickly picks up. Half step and mark time, the team is racing. And I know the video is going to lag here, but you really need to. And you could have used all of this space back here, but you called rear march when the last rank met this black line back here. Didn't mean to stop it. So it's ineffective use of your space. Marine Corps technique requires you to toe strike on half step. Got an individual out of step. What's arm swing for the Marine Corps? 6 to the front and 3 to the rear. So what I'm thinking is that this type of competition for the LAPD cadets is no from the hold. Oh my goodness. It's from the halt is not a command. From the halt isn't even informative. From the halt is never said, ever. It's just guidance in the manual. When you're performing this movement from the halt, you do this. When you perform the movement while marching, you do this. Don't say from the halt. So I'll get back to what I was saying. It looks like the LAPD cadet drill competition is an exhibition type of performance, but especially with the facing sequence that you had earlier. But there's maybe a lack of understanding of exhibition drill, or possibly a lack of time to be able to practice in-depth exhibition drill. So what you could do is, and I'll put a link to this in the notes below, use the boxes of 3 method to start. And I said this for the other team that I critiqued. Use the boxes of 3 method at my website to start understanding how to be able to use exhibition drill that really doesn't take all that much. It takes effort, but it doesn't take a lot of planning. You can execute blackout, which is just a box of 3 using the 1s and 2s. 1s go to the left, 2s go to the right, making a box of 3 with a pivot there. And it works. It works well. It's actually a nice audience attention drawer or attention keeper, really. So look at that arm swing there. You've got the guidon is swinging that that backswing has got to be 12, 14, 15 inches, something like that. So 6 and 3 is the Marine Corps arm swing. All right, if you're going to adhere to Marine Corps style, then you really need to go all the way through. Army style, Marine Corps style, whichever you choose, that's fine. Doesn't matter to me. But you need to be consistent through your training and then also your application. All right. Oh, this would have been really effective with the stop and the woo over the right shoulder. Had the guidon, had the timing been there, it would have been much better without the phasing and the voices and the turn and all that. And you could have made that a bigger emphasis, turning towards the audience. So if you want to turn over the right shoulder, that's fine, but you need to turn toward the audience. Turning away from them sends your voice away from them, so it's not as effective. Plus, when you turn and face the audience, then you're engaging them. You're looking at them, even though you're facing them for just a moment. Even though you're just turning your head just for a moment, you're still engaging your audience there. This, you're not engaging your audience. You're turning your head away from the audience. And guidon, had you not let your guidon slam the ground or slam the deck right at that time, it was kind of a woo slam. And if you just would have left the guidon in your hand elevated, it would have come across a little better. Or you even could have done something different with the guidon to emphasize the turn. But see, this is the exhibitionized regulation drill, or regsibation. It just really, there's something that you're attempting, but you just, it's like riding your bike over a really steep hill, and it's your first time trying to get over that hill, and you're just not making it, and forget it. Platoon halt. Way too fast. The Marine Corps tempo is, anyone? Platoon halt. Step size is really inconsistent there. Cadence. Cadence for the Marine Corps is 110 to 120. 112 to 120. I got to tell you that if I was just to watch in the audience, you've lost me. while the step length was inconsistent on the back step, it was also very fast. Nice. That's great. Now, alignment is a little bit off there because of a different technique used to turn around. But I probably appreciate that. That's great. Where did that come from? So I'm wondering, in this competition, do you have to execute a certain amount of regulation movement and then get into some exhibition? Or is the whole thing just your imagination? So good. So had you put these exhibition moves scattered out throughout the performance, you would have maintained your audience's, that was Jones sequence, just about. But you performed it all with the whole platoon. But had you put these different exhibition moves interspaced in between a lot of the regulation movement, this would have been a much more effective 13 minutes. Well, you didn't start right away, so. Fourth squad leader, you're supposed to tell the guidon. You're supposed to tell the guidon if she's getting too far away, getting too close, moving to the right, moving to the left. So I really recommend you reading Marine Corps Order 5060.20. Learn those moves. All right. So the Marine Corps Order really needs to be read if you're going to perform those movements and be consistent with the written standard. And then space in the exhibition drill there, in between the other regulation moves. That would be much more effective than saving them to almost 2 minutes before the very end, and then bang, 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 bang. You have them all right there when you lost most of your audience for the other, say, 9 or so minutes. It would be much more effective to have that happen. So there's tempo to work on, spacing, arm swing, step size, and a couple other things that I mentioned. And if you really, Commander, if you really feel the need to constantly call commands or call cadence, then I don't know what to tell you, because the team really didn't need it most of the time. Now, there were a couple of times where it was just a little bit strange as far as step techniques, tempo, and phasing as well. So cadence isn't used as a performance quality. Calling cadence, it's used to get and keep the team in step. But you should be able to call cadence less and less and less and less and less over time, because the platoon should be improving over time. If they're not, then there's a training issue that's happening there. But I appreciate the thought process that went into creating the exhibition moves. That was great. But more effective use of the basketball court, and then also making those movements happen at different times and in different areas as well. You can stage the team closer for some intricate movements, but you can also stage them further away from the audience for a bigger effect with the bigger moves there. It'll be able to then be framed in a field of vision there for your audience. So anyway, some things to consider. I hope my comments have been helpful, and I really appreciate the video being sent in for a critique. Thank you.